In this video we're going to see a lot of real life camo net footage using it as a screen, with a traditional tent, with a tarp. We're going to see it in the worst possible case scenario and also in the best possible case scenario. Look how good that is. Now that is camouflage. So I've got two different styles here. I bought them from this listing on Amazon and I bought the 1.5 by 3 meter size. We'll discuss why I got that size and these colours in just a second, but first I want to point out this is incredibly lightweight, weighing less than 300 grams, which I was pretty surprised at if I'm honest. I had worried that it might be quite bulky and cumbersome, but as well as lightweight, it is very, very compressible. I just wanted to show you those. Those are the clips that I'm going to be using to attach the netting to the top of my tarp, and I'm going to start by showing you the worst possible example, because if you set your shelter up in the wrong place, all of the camo netting in the world won't hide it. So here you can see we're being viewed from above. We've got the huge block of colour with the green grass in the background, and we've got the sun coming from the other side, so all of this side is in shade, making it a really dark rectangle against all of the field in the background. But here's the first important lesson, and we'll talk more about the sun in just a second. When I simply changed the sides that I had raised so that suddenly the camo netting was in the direct sunlight, look at how much better that was. And of course this is still an open pitch in the middle of a field which you want to avoid at all costs, but how much better was that just with the sun being on our side? That's more like it, a nice bit of woodland, not so dense that we can't find any clear ground to create our shelter, and not so sparse that we feel like we're still out in the open. So I want to focus for the next few minutes of the video on the camo netting with the tarp, and then we'll get on to using it as a screen and with a tent later on. The reason I want to focus on it with the tarp is because the tarp is 1.5 by 3 meters, give or take. It's a 3 by 3 meter folded in half, and because of that, it's a large surface area of a block colour, and it's got very unnatural straight lines and right angles. So to me, it's quite a big and quite an unnatural object to camouflage. So talking about the sun, you might notice because we've got direct sunlight coming through the trees here, it's actually created an artificial camouflage pattern on the plain tarp with all of the shadows of the trees and branches. So that's quite an interesting feature straight away, which again shows that the natural environment can lend us a helping hand as well as hinder us sometimes. So I've got two camouflage styles here. The one you're currently looking at, which is slightly greener and darker than the other one. This one is 5 colour woodland, and the other one is simply called brown camo. And as you can see in these conditions, I think they are incredibly effective. So I'm going to show you a few different shots here in the sun. Then I came back on a separate occasion to do it without any direct sunlight, which we'll see in just a moment. And then I came back on another occasion with the tent to try it out. But as you can see, for me, I'm really happy with these. And something I do want to point out is that I decided not to edit this video footage in terms of the colour or saturation or anything at all. This is just the footage looking how it was as I recorded it. You can see this much lighter one is the brown camo effect, which I think in these conditions is really, really good. And you can see there with both of them visible and spread out, you can see the colour difference with the green on the right being the 5 colour woodland. Lovely stuff though. Really happy with these, and I think it's something that I'm far more likely to use than I'd anticipated. I bought these thinking it's a bit of a novelty, it's a bit of fun, but to be fair, they're unbelievably lightweight as we've seen, very compressible, and not really much of a hassle to use. Just before we get to the screen and tent usage, I want to just show you some footage from some previous camping trips on this exact spot. The reason that I wanted to use a tarp and a camo net in the first place was because I actually got rumbled by a dog walker, who I believe their dog had actually run in looking around in the woodland and then raised the alarm. But I returned a few days later because I didn't want to lose my confidence, and so I fetched the tarp and the camo netting because not only does it directly block out a line of sight between me and the footpath, but also at night, the significance of the tarp is that it stops any errant light shining towards the area most likely to have people walking by. So that's just something I want to say, that if you do use the camo netting as a screen, remember that after darkness falls, you've got nothing stopping that light going out to be very visible as well. We'll just have a very quick look at a few extra bits of footage of the tarp and net setup, but without the direct sunlight, so that we haven't got the additional effects of the shadow camouflage. So you'll see in these conditions, and with the light just approaching sort of a dusky, very, very early sunset sort of light, the camouflage, I think, really steps into its own. Maybe the brown camo more so than the green camo. In all honesty, I think this shot speaks for itself. Look how close we are, and yet how well disguised the shelter was. If we move over to a tent, this is a two-person tent. I just quickly threw up the outer sheet so we had something to play around with. And as you can see, it's a much lighter green, and I think that's actually a lot more visible than the darker tarp in these conditions. But it is also a far more organic and natural looking shape. It doesn't have a 3 meter long top edge as an absolute straight line, for example. So I really loosely held the netting on by just attaching some guy lines and some extra pegs to the ground. And you can see it had a pretty immediate, very, very pleasing effect. I may be just biased because I'm excited and really enjoying doing all of this sort of stealth camping stuff and playing around with camo netting for the first time, but I thought that was a really great result. And of course, setting up a camo net on a tent, where, as you saw, it was just two guy lines and two pegs, took literally a matter of seconds, whereas setting it up on the tarp, although still easy, does require just a little bit more time to attach all of those clips. You can see here the green camo isn't as effective in my opinion, maybe because it's a little bit too similar in colour to the tent beneath it, so it was creating more of a block of colour again. So if we try this out now using it as a screen, you can see I think it's actually quite effective. It's difficult to explain it exactly, but you can't really see the net itself, but you can just see the sort of murky, obscured items behind it. Viewing this in person, I found that there was actually quite a strange effect that until I got really close up and could see each item very distinctly, it was difficult for my eyes and my brain to figure out exactly what I was looking at and exactly where each item was in relation to each other. Now this I thought was quite interesting. Using it purely as a screen with nothing else behind it, I found that if I stayed still, even with the camera this close to it, I actually became quite well disguised. But of course, as soon as I started to move around, it was immediately obvious where I was and what body parts you were looking at. So this one again, the brown camo, I felt was more effective in this environment. But again, look at that. If I'm staying still, I'm staying hidden. Of course, this might not be an ideal setup for a camp if you're going to be walking around on the other side a lot, but at night time, if you're going in your tent and you've just got something like this set up between you and where you think people might be passing by, it should offer you a decent bit of cover. So in summary, for something that I've picked up off Amazon for less than 15 quid each, I am really, really happy with these, and I'm absolutely blown away at how effective they are. The fact they're so lightweight and easy to just compress down and mush into my backpack is definitely a bonus. I'll leave a link to the listing of this camo on Amazon in the description. If you buy through that, I will get a commission, so you can decide whether that makes me biased or not, but there's the information for you, you know it all now. As always, thank you for watching. If you'd like to help me out, please consider being a channel member, a PayPal supporter, a Facebook subscriber, a super thanker, or however else you might want to support me. Just like my recent supporters, Melissa L, Sean B, C Cole, Dawn H, A Sanford, T Seymour, David D and Kaz G. Thank you very much everybody. Until the next time, keep it camouflaged, keep it interesting, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.